93% of that, okay? But you decrease that line item,
Yes. I did.
okay?
And you have different numbers than I do, because I have my other report sitting right there.
So you have 40, according to this, this was dated 8/18, so.
Okay.
And I guess I go through this.
230, now 230, this is the one I got yesterday. And it says.
44,626.
Yeah, it says 44,626. It says we expended 41,372. So I dropped it down to 44.
Okay.
That's what I have.
Okay, I'm going off of expended 15-16%. I'm going off the percentage.
You're going off the actuals?
Yeah. So, and I'm okay with that, if that meets your needs, okay? But as I go through some of this, for example, this one stuck out to me big time. And I need, because I don't know what it is, radio service,
Yeah.
okay? You asked for 2,000, you only spent 9% of that budget, and you're asking for 2,000 again.
That is for.
So,
That's for repairs on the
Okay.
radios. So there is a CIP for radio,
Okay.
right? So if you look at a mobile unit, you're looking at $5,000. If you look at a handheld, the 5,000s we have, or 4,900 and change. That CIP is designed for that.
okay,
Now,
so this
something's-
every year, that
Yes.
2,000 goes to a CIP?
No.
Well, no,
Okay,
no, this is just so, let's say, something like with your radio. When you, remember your radio went blah, 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 okay? That's where that's gonna come from.
okay,
To repair that radio, it might be fixable, or it might be destroyed.
okay.
You know, that's where that is, it's just fixing of radio equipment. So handheld goes bad, and it needs to be rewired or whatever they do, whatever Motorola does. They still think it's a $500 radio, and the name costs $4,500.
Okay.
That's my firm belief of that.
And I guess, I only bring up these short examples because I highlighted them, they were things that I was thinking about. So I'm gonna use a term that has been used with me over the last 3 months as a used car salesman. It's time to sharpen the pencil,
Mhm.
okay? Anytime someone comes to me and I tell them a deal on a car, they're like, oh no, it's time to sharpen your pencil, okay? What you guys have done, and I commend you, in having Tammy do the actuals, so you guys know from day to day, this is where we're at. Okay, I commend you on that. That's huge. Okay. So now we're looking at a difference from, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm okay to be wrong. I've been wrong a lot. The total fund is $1,002,366. Am I correct in that? Down here at the bottom of page 19,
Okay, so,
and you're asking for $1,986,322.
detention's now in that.
Right, yep,
Okay.
I'm okay with
Okay.
that.
So-
Because
So it's
we're,
not- yeah,
because the
it's
bottom
not.
line is we're gonna have to talk that number,
Yeah, so this is 2,300.
okay?
That's not counting, 2,302 is detention.
Okay, so then,
So that whole 1.9 is detention, dispatch.
that's
or-
all public safety
That's
now.
all public safety, okay?
Yep.
So that's the whole grand scheme of things. It's
Okay.
not,
So-
because what I was looking at,
So
if
we,
I remember correctly.
so you're looking, okay, so if we just do, without detention, you're looking at for an increase of 149,770?
I
in your-
don't think it was that far. The only downfall was we spent 776 last year, right?
Yep,
And we budgeted 698,251.
yep,
Okay. The problem was, last year, was that, when I had come to the commission and asked for approval to hire a detective and fund it, I got the go-ahead, and then something had happened in the mix of that where it became the responsibility of the sheriff to find the funding.
sure.
That I was not aware of, so when I hired the detective slot, that part of that came into play, that's part of that 70,000 that we weren't planning on. So I thought that was gonna be allocated in that funding process, and it didn't happen. So that's where we had that real big shortfall. The other aspect of that
Yeah,
is that we had,
I got the wrong numbers.
we had a lot of We had a lot of that overtime. We budgeted 27,000 for overtime, and we burned 42,000 in overtime that year. And I know some of those emergency meals came in to compensate that. Then I think it also went into fuel and went into just regular other stuff. So I don't know how that gets dispersed in the grand scheme of things, or if it just gets put in at the back end as a reduction in things. And so that's where part of that changes. The only thing that I went off of without any cost of living earlier when I submitted this was basically just what I thought we were going to be at. One of the conversation points yesterday was the fact is that last year we put into play and we took care of a lot of things that needed to be done, that had been sitting on the back burner and the back burner and the back burner. And when I became sheriff, I put them in play. One of the things we did last year that came out of this also was things that we weren't planning on. And that was trying to retrofit an office building to meet the needs of today versus what they were in 2005. And so that was part of that as well. And some upgrades and some things like that. Some of the tools we have obviously cost more money. You know, we pay for a thing just to check ponds to see who's stealing the pond and stuff. That's $1,600 a year just for that one software package to do that one little thing. So I thought that with my math, and I don't have
71,363 is the difference that you're asking for.
because I thought it was right around. Okay, so
I thought that sounds pretty close. So-
What we have is, and I think this will really help, I think Nick is right in these numbers, however, he is not privy to what we did yesterday.
Right, and that's what I mean.
And I
Yeah.
think before we get into this, I think that you need to know some of the things that we're looking at long-term for public safety. We started, Wynn got started, but I think it would really help if you shared everything.
yeah. So one of the things.
Starting with the transportation and then,
One of the things
detective.
is that, and it frustrates me, and I used this analogy yesterday when it comes to radio service, okay? The sheriff's office, we sat down, me and Whitfield, we got the grant for $148,246.97. So we can get a communication system that actually functions, where more than one person can talk on the radio, different channels, without walking all over each other, because we do have very large incidents. We need the capability to communicate. We need to be able to communicate with people outside of our agency. We can't talk to Highway Patrol, we can't talk to Gallatin County, we can't talk to Lewis and Clark. When you're in a pursuit and it goes across state line, county lines, you can't talk to anybody. That's a problem. So we sat down and we got this grant. I found some money in 911 funds and said we can get this going, okay? My argument to everybody in the public safety world is, why is it the responsibility of the sheriff to then fund a communication system for all the public safety entities? I think everybody should have some skin in the game. I think everybody should have some buy-in to it.
The only dilemma that we have with that though is, for example, if, not to interrupt you, but
That was just an example I
Right,
used yesterday.
right,
And we
but
can, we,
part of the thing that we have to take into consideration too with that is for like ambulance.
Mhm.
According to this thing that I passed out, it states in there that law enforcement will supply
Yep.
for an
Dispatch.
ambulance. Yes, dispatch, yep.
Okay, it has nothing to do with radio services.
Oh, true story,
There
okay,
you
so
go.
I stand correct, see, I don't have a problem being wrong.
So, that's the thing, and for me, law enforcement's gonna utilize it more, and I don't have a problem saying, hey, we got more skin in the game than most other agencies.
Right.
I completely understand that. However, I think that it should be the responsibility of all parties involved to make it happen, not
Sure.
just solely the responsibility of the sheriff. And I think we're on the right track. Same goes with transportation, okay? Is that, it seems like we're controlled, we get these nice little motions on our desk that says, you will have this person here picked up at this time, blah, 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 blah. Right? I just had them last week, you will have Miss Joyce in Broward County forecourt Friday morning. So I have an officer that spends an whole day, because of road construction, everything else, drives all the way down to Billings, picks up Mr. Joyce to bring him back. Then he sits in our facility, and then the next morning, as soon as he's done with court, he gets back in the car, and I'm paying an officer to go all the way back. And we do this quite a bit, and that goes back to that conversation of when we're driving to Billings, pick them up, bring them back all the way to Gallatin County to get turned around to go back, because of the fact then an attorney says, oh, we're gonna continue it. I consider that one lack of pre-planning, okay? And I think that, you know, for us, I understand we have to transport, but let's not make it worthless of my time. I'm burning dollars, and I guess that's where I go, okay, how do I fix this? Because the fact is my budget is being asked to be really tight around where there's not much breathing room. And I think we can all agree with that. There's not much breathing room. I can't control what goes on. It's 24/7, 365. But everybody seems to want it to look like something, and no offense, what's Monday through Friday, 8 to 5? It doesn't work. I can't. And so part of that was maybe we have a discussion with the courts and everybody else if they have part, so they have some skin in the game. Because maybe then they're gonna say, hey, continuances need to be done. If you want a continuance, it'll be done by Thursday or Wednesday at 5. If you have court on Friday. This last minute stuff kills us. And that's a cost that the sheriff's office has to eat because people don't, well, I've been so busy, I haven't looked at that client's case and I realize I'm not ready until Friday morning. That stuff is, there's no accountability outside of that.
Sure.
Okay? But it comes down to the backside that I have to figure out how I'm gonna fund this particular operation when I have people being, I'll be, for lack of a better word, reckless with their time. Okay?
You know,
So-
sorry. Go
So
ahead.
there is a plan here if you were going to ask
Yeah.
for that.
There is a plan. And so I go through this, and I can only speak, and regardless of how people felt I did the job, that's neither here nor there. But sitting in the chair over there, doing that job, each year is tasked with bringing in more inmates. So we have a 46-bed facility with capabilities of being a 49-bed facility, okay? If we require you guys to have a full house, okay, to offset some of your costs, okay? That building was, whether, again, neither here nor there of how people felt that it was designed, that's not the issue. It was not designed to house 49 inmates on a regular basis. Your average is 46.4 to 48 inmates. That's your average. So, I think about this, because I've sat on that side of the table. We continue to put the restriction on you saying we need 38 paying inmates. Because at one time it was 38 paying inmates. We are beating our facility down by the overusage, by giving it more than it can handle. So my concern is if we continue to require you to, and I can only speak because I've been over on that side, to bring in more revenue, that's gonna cost us more expenditures in fixing a building because it's now handling more than it was ever designed to handle. Now I feel, because I've sat over there, that yes, you should be able to bring in an amount of money and help offset some of these costs. Because back in 2000, whatever it was designed, that was the big push. It will bring us in money. Okay? When I took the seat, they said we need it to bring in money. That was so I can speak on that behalf. So when we talk plans and going forward, I would have to agree with Chairman Obert and what you said. We need to bring everyone that has skin in the game and say, okay, look, we did it with the building project. You want to be part of this building project? This is what it's going to cost you to be part of this building project. If that's what needs to happen to move forward, then I think that has to be the mindset. But the mindset of we'll just bring in more people, we need to find a number that we'll be consistent with in case Lewis and Clark facility opens up, or in case Bozeman lowers their rates, or 112 different reasons why we might lose inmates. If we continue to do what they did for the first 5 years of that facility and say, yeah, look at that golden cow, and that magical goose laying the golden eggs, whatever, and then bam, in 2010, 2011, we had an average of 5 inmates, yeah, that's going to be a huge drain. So I think we need to really revisit that whole concept of bringing in more inmates, because you both know that everyone knows that if we continue to do that, we're gonna, in 5 years, gonna have to look at a new facility.
And good, very good point. What Wynn is talking about and what we came up with yesterday as one of the plans actually is more bringing people to court than to the detention center. And so
Yeah,
it
lay it
really
out.
does speak to what you're saying is we can't rely on one pot of money. We need to get better on long-term planning,
Sure.
and that's really what this was all about. So
You know,
you would,
and I guess we, we have 24/7, and there's mandates on 24/7 unless the judge decides to waive it. And I'll be honest with you, nothing's frustrating more with these, we deal with people over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And the county attorney and I have had discussions and borderline arguments, we had an argument, in regards to 24/7. And he's probably sitting behind me giving me the dirty look right now.
No, he's
Oh, he's
actually
laughing.
smiling.
But the thing is that it's out there as a pre-trial utensil, but there's boundaries to it. You only get 3 failures. Once you're done, once you hit third, you're done. You're not being responsible. And that's the whole design, is to put that accountability back on the person who's doing it. Yes, there's a financial cost, but guess what? When you sat down at the bar and got to a .35 in alcohol concentration, got behind your car and drove and crashed into a power pole, that's a responsibility that you took. And so that's what that whole program was designed for. And what we're finding is that they come in, they complain, they whine, give their sob story, oh, I can't afford it, I can't afford it. Still smoking 2 packs a day, but they can't afford that $4 a day for the test, and so they're getting off of it. And so, as more of a pre-trial utensil, it's being, well, we'll put them on for a couple days and then they go away. One of the things that causes problems, that means is that when they continue to violate, we have to put them back in jail. When we put them back in jail, that's an officer going downstairs making an arrest. It's then that officer doing the test. It's then the detention officers doing the booking, the issue the equipment, which then the next day has to be cleaned and washed. And then it's the judge taking his time, the dispatch taking their time filling out fingerprint cards and running criminal histories. And so we're spending a whole lot of money every single time these guys do this, and then it continues down this path. And then eventually they go somewhere else. That's one of the things that we're facing. Okay, we don't have anything else for pretrial services really that we can do. Misdemeanors, majority of the misdemeanors we have are OR release, they're sent on their way with conditions. Well, we don't have time to be honest with you, we don't have the time in the day to monitor what misdemeanors are doing. The felonies are overwhelming, and the county attorney who's sitting behind me should be nodding his head that the felony caseload is going through the roof in this county.
So let me ask you a question. So in other agencies, I know that certain people don't come to jail. So,
Like suspended, you're talking about.
yep, certain things don't come into jail. Does that save them money?
I think on the backside it probably does.
Yeah.
So I guess that's, I mean, if we're talking long-term plan and things of that nature, is that part of a discussion?
I think like the suspended, I would worry about, and I just did a stop in Lewis and Clark County rodeo weekend, assisting them, is we stop a car for DUI in Broadwater County, driver goes to jail, if there's intoxicated pedestrians, another deputy comes, we get them away from the car, they don't get allowed to sit in the car with the keys on the side of the roadway. I think that we're not willing to take that on, that liability of when I drive away from here, and I drove away, it's Lewis and Clark County, it was his call, but you just left two highly intoxicated people in a car on the side of the road with the keys, who, haven't told you the truth the whole time they were there, and they say they have a ride coming from Butte, we all know they probably drove away once we left, maybe an hour later. I think the same liability like with the driving suspendeds. We take them to jail, we don't leave them. You left a person that cannot drive in physical control of a motor vehicle in the ways of the state with a citation, he drives away and crashes a car, maybe we're gonna save a little bit here, but in the long run, when they, crash or do something, we might be out the loss.
And I guess those are the reasons why I ask these questions, is because we need to look at this and find a solution.
And if I may, Nick, and part of that is the reason why we take 18-year-old MIPs to jail. We take them to jail because the fact is that they're 18. You walk away from it, the law allows us to. But guess what? They get behind the wheel, they get in a crash, they die, they pull a ticket out of their pocket that we just issued to them. Guess what? Somebody's knocking on our door and we have a lawsuit.
Sure.
Okay? We saw it down at the Buffalo station in Gallatin County where the guy, he got in a crash and they came back to the bar and said, hey, you're responsible, $3.5 million. You're responsible for this. And so that's one of the reasons why we do it. The other thing that I do when it comes to suspended, as foolish as it is that the law says that you can, mandatory 2 days in jail up to 180. Judge Wood right now is putting people in jail for 180 days. Lewis and Clark County, or Helen Municipal Court for driving suspended. You look at the national average, 75% of the crashes that occur in the United States of America are people who have a suspended or revoked license in the first place. They have no business or reason to be behind the wheel. If I don't take them to jail, then I'm condoning that bad behavior.
And I'm good with that
So-
explanation. I'm just, obviously you guys worked on
Right,
a
and I
plan.
think we need to share, I
Yeah.
think we need to cut to the chase
Yeah,
and just
'cause-
share what that
exactly.
plan is.
So
So,
what are,
the
yeah,
transportation budget, what we talked about is creating another fund, 2304, or thereabouts.
Something like that.
And
hold on,
what,
let me-
yeah. So based on the fact that what the sheriff's department right now is paying for in total and expending deputies' time in total needs to actually be a shared cost.
Okay.
The time they spend on going and picking up people for trial or what have you, not detention,
Sure.
is the result of decisions made by some in the all the general fund, and that's what Wynn alluded to earlier. Justice, legal services, county attorney, and justice of the peace.
Okay.
So, what we decided yesterday, if it's good with the commission, is there's 4 entities there. District court, county attorney, justice of the peace, and law enforcement. Tammy is putting together the full amount of money last year that was spent on those transportations.
Okay.
She's gonna take that to Debbie, and that may have been done already.
She was working
And-
on it when we left, so.
Okay, we're gonna divide it into 4.
Okay.
Each entity is gonna pay 25% into that new budget.
Okay.
It will roll over as it's not needed and be added to as it's used. And that will actually take some money out of the general fund, shift it to this new fund, relieve these guys some pressure on their budget, and shift it to the new fund.
Okay.
And that will pay for those transports. And that will also build a team,
Sure.
because now the justice of the peace, the county attorney, the district judge, and the sheriff will coordinate more because they've all got skin in the game.
Sure.
So that was one long-term plan we came up with. Tammy thought it might be $50,000 to $75,000 total, divided by 4. You're looking at roughly 20,000 per department.
Sure.
That's a little
And-
high.
And it's, I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to relinquish my responsibilities in any form or fashion.
No.
It's the fact is that when I have to look at the grand scheme of things, my overall responsibility is public safety. It's the people that I work for. And I can't have somewhat of a control of what's going on because other people and other entities are demanding this is what I do. That makes it difficult, And when I don't have support from outside agencies, i.e. Highway Patrol or Fish and Game, I can't control that either.
Sure.
And so it really becomes a cumbersome thing where I can't control if I have to pull somebody out in overtime to do a transport, because guess what? We're all sitting on 284 trying to get a hunter shot because there's 6 million people lined up on the highway trying to kill an elk.
Sure.
Okay? We're feeling those pressures. We have somebody sitting on a rollover because there's no highway patrol. And we'll use this as an example, and I can't remember who, Marvin told us this. A sheriff down in the southern side of the state, southeastern part of the state, had a fatal car crash. He didn't call highway patrol. He just did it on a regular old white form and mailed it in, and they threw a fit. Why don't you call? Got tired of waiting on you guys. Why is it, and for us, put this in perspective, we're between Elm and Bozeman. But every time we call, they say it'll be an hour and a half to 2 hours before we can get there. Well, hell, I can drive from Helena to Bozeman in 2 hours. Why does it take you to drive that long to drive in the middle, you know. So those are some of the values we're dealing with. And so it's not trying, like I said, we're not trying to relinquish any of the responsibilities as the office of the sheriff, it's just that.
No, but we have to think outside the
Right.
box to fix this problem. And we
And-
can't continue to think that your detention center is gonna fix the problem, because it's not gonna fix the problem. At worst case scenario, it goes back to 2010. That's worst case scenario. And it's possible.
Yeah, and that's the problem, is we can't get back in that spot, we can't get back in that spot.
And so
Yeah.
we have another plan that will take us further from
Right.
that spot, and that is the funding of your detective.
Mm-hmm.
That, last year was at the request of the county attorney. He had 3 requests, that was number 2, and the top of his priority list. We had a plan to work with Brenda for funding, that never happened. And now it falls on Wynn to fund this position, that this individual actually splits his time almost 50-50 between sheriff's office and county attorney. So the plan there is to split the cost. The detective will be under the sheriff's department 50% pay, still your employee, and paid 50% from the county attorney's budget. Again, coming from the general fund. And that's about 28,000. So that was the second thing, long-term. And then the other one was the coroner and the autopsies will be in a separate fund, because, just like juveniles, and we'll get into that. And I think that was
I
it.
think that's it.
And the other thing, I wrote a note so I wouldn't forget, Debbie sent me an email last night, I don't have it on my phone because I don't have my business email, but she said she reran the numbers from our meeting yesterday, and you're 588 up, which is almost 33% reserves.
Oh.
That might be including that 844, but she was pretty excited. Her email said, on that note, I'm going home.
Okay.
So, and that was about 6:30.
And I haven't had a chance, like I said, I really kind of flustered over this and trying to figure out why everything it seems so far out of whack, because like we've told you every update, Brandon and I and Seth, we always look at the budget, we really monitor what's going on. We try to figure out what we're gonna do, what we need, bigger plans, if there's something big coming up, how are we gonna do it without jeopardizing something else? And I think we really have used due diligence in the last 8 months, 9 months to make things work in an effective manner. And unless you guys disagree with that. Do you wanna pipe in on this?
No,
Captain? I
good
mean,
job.
He's been doing a lot of talking.
Yeah.
well, I'm
I'm
always
looking at
talking.
Seth.
This is our first time too, so a lot
Yeah.
of this we're learning as well, you know, so it's,
Yeah.
we got a good teacher, so.
It was a good meeting yesterday, though, I thought. Yeah.
So where does that leave us? So
Well-
just going off the numbers that I have here, not taking these things into consideration, you're looking for an increase in your budget of 71,363. So now, taking into consideration if the county attorney and all these people can throw that money into this solution, we get buy-in from them, what's our bottom line now? What's the increase that you're looking for in your budget?
That I don't know because of the numbers that were skewed on the report.
Although Debbie
So-
again sent the email that we've almost reached your 33% reserves, which means they're balanced.
Okay,
So
so,
I,
With this plan.
yeah, and so I honestly don't know because the numbers were off. I mean, right now between, if we just use the medical part of the medical that you saw for inmate meds, the money that's been reimbursed, and then your inmate costs, you're at $860,000. And so when you're looking at 860,000, when you're looking at the other report where it's 739, everything changes in between.
sure.
And so, with there's some changes in things, I don't think we're as far off as we initially thought. But I think that taking some of that and putting those into others, instead of having them a budgetary item that really we can't control, what's gonna happen, I think that kind of shortens that span even farther. And that's with the fact that, since we haven't progressed in conversation with the city council, no offense, guys, that's just using that number from last year.
So let me ask another
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, I don't, Gerald, did you catch that? Okay,
So let me ask a question on that aspect. Yeah, a whole year. Out of that year, at what point in time, out of how many months were you fully staffed?
Never.
Never.
Okay, so obviously there's an increase. Because now, are you fully staffed now?
No.
We have one leaving today.
but the budget is based on full staff,
Sure, okay.
yeah.
So, I guess, at full staff, you still expended your overtime.
$15,000.
Sure, thank you. 'Cause I'm not seeing it.
It's 27 something. and we
Yep,
earned
so you
42.
expended 157% of that,
Mhm.
okay, and I understand, okay, overtime's a beast that you can't really take into consideration, so using the same logic that I have with using with the hospital, because I'm a true believer, if it's good for one, it's good for another. And there's been a couple other issues that we've talked about with the road department and other different things that, okay, if it's good for one department, it's good for another. I understand that by statute, we are responsible for law enforcement. I understand that, okay? So taking this into consideration, looking at this as a budget in a whole, seeing that, wow, you guys, you came up with some good ideas. Those are really good ideas. I mean, obviously that's moving forward, and you're not just saying, well, we need to come up with $70,000, give it to us. So you revamped thinking outside the box. Now we have to get buy-in from the county attorney and
And actually, yes, we do, however, it is our decision.
sure, right,
The
and I
budget is
understand
our
that.
responsibility, so if we make this decision and they don't like it, or Wynn doesn't like it because it's not enough, it's still our.
Oh, right, and I understand that, and I know that I'm not gonna, and I met with Debbie this morning, I know I'm gonna make people upset in the next month, because we're talking money, and we're talking,
And this is when we have no friends.
exactly. So you're like the guy that misses the winning field goal, you're on your own island, so I'm not trying to please everybody, and I'm not trying to I won't promise anything. Just like I told the hospital, I won't promise anything. I want to do what's fiscally responsible. And if there's a way, and obviously you guys have worked on 3 really impressive suggestions, we still have an area that we need to think about. And whether that's, I know you guys in the past and this year you come to us and say, let's set the exact mills, so it's not going up, it's not going down, let's just see. I think we need to do that with your inmate population. And because if you overstress that, just from experience, you guys are gonna be in a world of hurt. So, I was really impressed that that wasn't part of the 3 things that you guys suggested, because a lot, in the years past, that was the number 1 go-to. And we can't have that number 1 go-to. So these 3 things, are very enlightening.
And and part of that conversation yesterday was those changes that came in, okay? The revamp of the office space to conform to what we needed now,
Sure.
okay? And so part of that is I kind of wish in an aspect I could just say, give me a year to kind of see how it plays out. Because, it's, there's some change, there's a lot of change. And that change doesn't need to occur this year.
Lord willing.
And, yeah, knock on wood. And so I think that's, part of that is that there are a lot of change of things that need to get done. And, when you look at it, you go, okay, how do we streamline it, how do we make it better, how do we reduce costs? And I think that we've put a lot of things in place, and having Tammy have day-by-day numbers, I mean, that's been beautiful for the aspect of trying to determine, because obviously you can see from a report that was done yesterday, it's still not up to date. What I have, A101's for 844,000, but the report says it's 100% collected and we only got 739, that's a problem. And so that's kind of where we're at, is, our numbers are always gonna be off when it comes to this side. But, it's, if it's close, it's what I'm asking for.
Sure, and
Okay,
and I
I mean-
think going through this, and like, I've gone to Mako, I've gone to Department of Administration, I've even talked, over Lewis and Clark County. This is not a, hey, let's look at it and say, oh, well, there's a process to this. And now we're in the process of looking at this information and say, okay, you're gonna have to tighten your bootstraps and you're gonna lose your shoes type thing. And it's not that thing in general, but now we're in the crunch time. And, so looking at these things, as a whole, in building the foundation that we can move forward and say, hey, we have a solid plan, and cutting wasn't part of that plan. Because I think when you start talking about cutting, it's people's livelihoods. As we just heard from the hospital, it's people's livelihoods. So when we talk about cutting, it really has to be something that we take very seriously. And the fact that, there's more at stake here. But also, it's like I talked with Debbie this morning. When we have a tough time at home in our personal checking account, we just cut out some of the frilly things, and we just go and do what is necessary.
Well, and to be honest with you, Nick, when we hit May, was it May? April, May?
I'm gonna give you 2 minutes,
Yep.
because you've been here an hour and a half, and we've got the whole budget, and we've only got till 2. So, 2 minutes, go for it.
And the only thing I wanted to say was that, I said, no one has nothing, you're gonna have to comp it. And so, that patrol division did exactly that. Now, it's hurt us this fiscal year, because now they're starting to take it off. But those guys did that. They went out, they get called out, they work late, whatever it may be, they comped it, and they've been taking it as they can since then. And so, we've done those things. Like I said, this is a very complex, a very fluid objective we're trying to meet here. There's nothing static about it.
Sure.
And so, that's why it's so difficult. It's why, I agree with you. It needs to be, something needs to be set. Here it is. This needs to be set, and then build around it.
Sure.
The problem is we've never done long-range planning. We've never done it. I've been here 16 years. We've never done it.
And it sounds like what you guys did yesterday takes a step towards that long-term planning.
So we're trying, but you got to start somewhere.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And so,
And the first step is the hardest, and the second step.
I won't take up any more time.
Sure.
So,
Thanks very much, you guys, appreciate it, and again, appreciate you
Corey
very
got a
much.
question, Chair.
We're gonna get into the full budget,
I
we're not gonna get into a
wanna
debate
comment
on this,
I wanna comment on
but
this, cause
I
I can't
certainly
stick
may.
around all day, so I'd like to do that
Right.
before I have to take off.
but just real short, because we have to get into the
Okay.
budget.
Bottom line is, I don't agree with this cost sharing that's been proposed here. I've never heard of this before. No one ever came to me and said, we want you to pull money out of your budget for transport and detective. I disagree wholeheartedly with both of those issues, and I'd be happy to explain in more detail if you want, but I would have appreciated being in on whatever great meeting you had yesterday. It's the first I've heard of it.
All right,
and exactly the response I expected.
Yeah, well, it would have been nice to know upfront that.
Well, but part of that conversation earlier, they were here for.
do you want 5 minutes? Yes, we will recess for 5 minutes.
General fund.
Thanks, Franklin.
Why are you trying to pick it up in my?
It's not, I'm not taking anything out of it.
It's not.